What's up guys, From Cheng here with another Armored Core 5 Design Corner. This is part 2 of my tank series of design corners. If you didn't watch the first vid, basically I'm going to be doing the tanks a little bit differently than my usual design corner. So I'm going to be going over the specific weapons they use rather than the build itself. So I'm actually going to skip over a few things this time. I'm going to skip the head, core, and arms. They're the same as the last video. And just go straight to the legs and then go to the weapons. Right, so the legs I have here are the ULG 92 Vindia. They're basically the only legs that are technically what we would call midweight legs. The light legs would be the Baikal or the Elbrus, and the heavy ones would be the 93D, 93A, and the 93 Satpura. And basically, the Vindia is a midpoint between the heavy and the light legs. It's got good mobility, good defenses, and a few other good stats. So for instance, a big one is the static turning rate. Now, with the tank, this stat basically means when you stay still, how fast you spin. The Vindia is probably unique in that it has the highest turn rate at 260. The highest other one is Elbrus at 230. And what this basically means is that when the Vindia stops and you turn, it basically turns instantaneously. How useful to this is based on what you want to, what you're using it for. So, like if you have an enemy who's trying to circle around you, you could just stop and use the static turn rate to face toward them really, really fast instead of waste time and energy trying to boost and maneuver. And that probably wouldn't, if your opponent's really good, it's not going to work because they're just going to stay overhead of you. Some of the other stats that are good is I think it's booster stats. It's its booster output, obviously, and like I said before, it's a midpoint between the two other weight classes. Good defenses, good speed. It's like a lot of legs, it's also used a lot. I'm not really sure which one is used the most, because it's kind of a tie between all of them. But basically, if you don't want to go too light and you don't want to go too heavy, the Vindia is right where you want to be. As you can see from the defenses, it buffs out almost all TE weapons except plasma guns and the laser cannons. And for CE weapons, it blocks out a UBR, which gets about 2100 attack power, which is what really kills a light tank. And the KE is 1605, so it buffs out a Lamport. Unfortunately, it doesn't buff out things like a Tansy, which gets 1784 attack, or Oxide, which get a little over 1600. So it's a kind of, like I said before, it's just something you have to take into consideration. You're not going to be able to buff 100% all of the armed weapons. Alright, so for FCS, glance, it's a good overall basic FCS generator. So I already talked about this before in my first video. And recon unit is 36 EA because it lasts very long. Alright, and now we move on to the heat cannons. Now the heat cannons are basically super strong battle rifles, but the difference being is that they have really low muzzle velocity, which means they pretty much anything that moves faster than a tank is going to be able to outrun it. And that also brings me to my next point, is that heat cannons are built specifically to destroy other tanks. It is basically an anti-tank weapon. When one tank equips a heat cannon, as soon as it gets close to another tank, it's going to absolutely wreck it. Let's look at some of the stats here. As you can see, for CE attack power, it's got about 3600, impact force at 1200, and ammo capacity at 100. So this thing is pretty powerful and has a lot of ammo. Reload and base lock 41-138, very good. Muzzle velocity, as you can see here, 197, that is pretty damn low. In comparison with battle rifles, which also have low muzzle velocity, such as, let's see, the Lotus gets pretty fast, so you see here, right here, it's got 549, and the UBR, which tends to have the lowest, is almost twice has almost twice the muzzle velocity. And let's see, and the Strakoza has a little more than double the muzzle velocity. So the heat cannon has, you know, like I said, is pretty slow. So in order to use it, you have to be really close. And that's also what makes it effective only against tanks, because only tanks will be moving that slow for you to hit it with that. Other one, some of the other heat cannons there's the Pyrolid. As you can see here, 4,300 attack power, but it's got, you know, almost 2,000 impact force, which means as soon as it hits something, it's going to get stunned, period, because 2,000 is higher than is possible to get in stability. We also have the, let's see, UHC-24R. It's got better ammo over the Pyrolid. It's got better reload time and base lock on. Basically use that for, as the R suggested, for rapid fire. I will say that unlike a lot of the other weapon types, heat cannons have, you pretty much use any heat cannon you want. They're all pretty good weapons, and depending on what you want, you know, you could use it for that. The two main, I think, specializations that are used is rapid fire or power. But I think rapid fire is more popular because it gets the lock speed down, and what's more important is get the reload time down while maintaining quite a bit of power and impact force. Now, and like I mentioned earlier, the heat cannon tank is basically a tank destroyer. It's designed specifically to take out other tanks. So as soon as you see one of these on the field, you want to keep your tank away from that, because as soon as it gets close, your tank's gone, and there's nothing you can do about it. Subcomputers, again, Danabad, to get the reload time down really low. And one interesting thing is that a lot of people don't use back weapons with heat cannon tanks. The reason for this is that it's built specifically for that, you know, that's its only purpose, to kill other tanks. Maybe catch a quad or an HRJ if it can, but for the most part, its job is to take out other tanks. Usually, if people do it, it's Kurosawa, but it's not very often. Like I said, it's a very specialized kind of tank. It's built only for one purpose, and beyond that, it really can't do anything else. And personally speaking, I don't really use this AC too much. It's not really my type of tank, but it is, as someone who does use other tanks quite frequently, this is something you really want to avoid, because if it catches you, it's usually game over, because one shot after another just stuns you and takes large amounts of your AP away. So like I said, it is a specialized build, but if you know how to use it, it can be devastating. Right? And this is the end of this design corner. If you like this video, please subscribe. And if there's any builds you'd like to see me use or show off, please let me know in the comments. This is From Cheng, signing out.